You sound unsure of yourself.
No, we're good.
All right. Today is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. We are in the Drexel Bellevue Heights Education Center, 6638 Mill Road, Drexel. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business, and it is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for the public participation during the meeting as an indicated agenda item. The meeting will be live streamed via YouTube and also recorded for later viewing. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel where all recordings are posted. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 1C, roll call.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Mrs. Wigman?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes. Item 2A, enter into executive session. Resolve to enter into executive session for the purpose of the consideration of the purchase of property for public purposes or sale or other disposition of unneeded, obsolete, unfit for use property at competitive bidding if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. Executive session item C, and to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensed, or regulated individual unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing per Ohio Revised Code 121.22 item G. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski? Mrs. Mack? Mrs. Wigman?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes, we will be in executive session until approximately 7 p.m. where we will reconvene for our regular meeting.
We are live.
Okay, item 2C, resolve to exit executive session. May I have a motion?
Second.
Who was the first there? Sorry.
Ellen.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Mrs. Wigman?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes. We are out of executive session. Item 3 is reconvening our regular meeting. We want to see if anyone's out in the foyer. Welcome, welcome. Have a seat. All right, moving on with our agenda. Item 4, President's announcements. I have none. So moving on to item 5A, Board Member Committee Reports. Financial Liaison Audit Committee, myself and Kathleen. So yes, you want to put your mic on too when you guys are talking, just a reminder. Yes, we did meet with the auditor. When was it? Was it last week? I think it was last week. And we went over, so Kathleen and I met with Craig and is it Ray and Associates. And it was an excellent audit. It was incredibly clean. And there was some glowing feedback from Ray and Associates that Craig is very easy to work with, and the financials and all of the tests that they ran were in great shape. So congratulations, excellent job.
Thank you.
I feel like that was a lot of work with a lot of the systems that you switched over, and
Yeah, that was the
Modernized.
hardest year because we have half in one year, half in the other, and we'll
Yeah.
have a little bit of that also for this year. But it'll all work out.
worked out. Nice job.
Yes, yes. Very good. Next item, Permanent Improvement Committee, Ellen and myself.
No updates other than our next meeting is Monday, April 5th.
Okay, next is Board Policy Committee, Kathleen and Tish.
We set our date, which is March 16th.
March
Next.
16th.
March 16th is their next policy.
Okay, very good. All right, moving on to agenda item 6, district committee reports. We have Transportational Appeals Committee. Myself, there were no appeals. Very quiet on the transportation front, which is good. Cuyahoga Valley Career Center, Mr. Gilbride, I believe, is in the audience. All right.
Come on up here and use
So-
this microphone.
Well, not that, the podium. That way
Thank
we'll
you.
get you a little screen time, Jim.
Can you just make sure that
Is
the
it ready? I
green
don't
light
know.
is?
You see if the mic's on.
Good. I just came to say hello, meet the new board member. Really, everything is in good shape over there. Mr. Mangus has implemented, as I've told you before, 5-year programs with the building, with a 5-year forecast, 5-year forecast on technology. He's also added an academic 5-year forecast. So it continues to run very smoothly. Financially, we're on very solid ground. Had a great audit, just like you folks here. So really not much to report back on. The drop, what are we calling this? The withdrawal survey was just completed. I just saw the email today, so I'll do the research on that and get an email to the board shortly. So any questions or comments regarding CVCC?
Jim, so Mr. Gilbride, I was looking for a couple of our parents here for summer camps. And so I see the summer camps have been suspended for the next 5 years, I think it says, on the website because of renovations that CVCC is doing. Are you aware of anything?
I am
Can you
not.
find out
I'd
about
be happy
the
to.
summer camps? It was a nice way for our parents to get in, see the building,
Okay.
try out some of the programming. We would bring in people from John Carroll and robotics and, and then can that be communicated out better?
Okay.
Because generally speaking, it'd be a month from now that parents would have some mailer or something pushed out. And I'd like to understand why 5 years, like, you're
Yeah.
gonna suspend something for that long, and you have, so it
I
said,
will-
because the summer's the time to do. the
Sure, to get
renovations.
access.
Yeah,
No, that's the first I've heard of it. So we have our meeting tomorrow
it's on
evening.
the website. and
I'll bring it
that's
up
all I
tomorrow.
saw.
And get you an answer and get back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Sure,
I was gonna
absolutely.
say,
You
introduce
gotta
yourself.
put your mic on, sorry.
Pushed it. Sorry, clearly. Hi, Mr. Gilbride, Tish Kwiatkowski. I just wanted to say, CVCC, my son is a graduate of the software development and programming program over there. So big CVCC supporter. So
Great to hear.
Yeah.
It's a hidden jewel.
it
that,
absolutely is.
unfortunately doesn't get enough credit.
Yes. It's
Very good.
fantastic.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet.
Thanks.
All right, moving on, safety and security, Brittany and Tish.
No meetings yet. No report, no meetings.
Okay, schools foundation report, Brittany.
Just one, the School Foundation's annual online silent auction is now live. So this is a departure for those that have been engaged in the last few years. There's been the beach ball for the sip and support event. This year is exclusively online. Last year was the telethon, which was wildly successful. I don't want to forget that. The online silent auction is live now. It closes March 16th, so it's actually open for several weeks. There's about 24 items up for auction. Anyone can go in, create an account, and bid. And again, the auction is open until March 16th. More information and a link to that auction is at bbhsf.org.
I have a question. I went on that auction. I didn't, maybe I missed it. The signs
They are
they
there.
are there?
Yes,
Okay.
towards the bottom, but they are a fan favorite,
Yes.
community favorite. Yes. So those are returning.
I had a question. Are they adding to as it goes, or is everything up and biddable until the end?
I believe everything that is available is up and live. I don't believe there's any late in the game ads.
Okay.
If you'd like to see something for the future, I'm sure they'd be open to suggestions.
Something.
Well, no, do you have something to add?
No, but I had looked at it and I don't know if I think something glitched with my computer because there was only like 3 or 4 things on there. And
Yes.
so, okay.
There are 29 items in total. The annual graduation packages, the BA superintendent for the day is returning, as well as the street signs are back along with some other fan favorites.
Very good. Thank you. PSO report, Ellen.
The first PSO meeting for 2022 was supposed to be on February 3rd, which was another calamity day, so we did not have that meeting. The next one is scheduled for March 3rd. So I don't have any updates other than the first meeting was canceled.
Okay, other board member reports. Anyone? Okay. Item 7, superintendent's announcements. I'll turn it over to Joelle.
Thank you. Well, I have great pleasure in welcoming 3 of our best and brightest students with us today to give us a presentation on their fundraising efforts for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So please welcome Ella DeTrey, Kate, and Bridget Butler.
Okay. Hello, I hope everyone's doing well this evening. I'm Ella DeTrey, and this is Bridget Butler, and then Kate Butler, sorry. And we're
Can't tell.
sophomores. We're all sophomores at the high school, and we were nominated as candidates for this year's LLS Students of the Year program. The Students of the Year campaign is a philanthropic leadership development program through which highly motivated high school leaders embark across the Cleveland area, embark on a journey of professional growth and compete to raise the most amount of money for blood cancer research and patient development within a 7-week period. And today actually marks the halfway point of our campaign. So we're 3.5 weeks in. And we're so excited to contribute to a cause that has already done so much good. LLS has invested more than $1.3 billion to blood cancer research since it was founded in 1949. And it advanced 85% of FDA-approved blood cancer treatments, paving the way for some blood cancers to the survival rates to double, triple, and even quadruple. But there's still so much more that needs to be done. The LLS organization's mission is to cure leukemia, lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's disease, and myeloma, and to improve the quality of life of patients and their families. Every 3 minutes, someone in the United States is diagnosed with blood cancer, and every 9 minutes, someone passes away from their condition. And we're so grateful to contribute to a cause that's already done so much good.
So we were connected to LLS through our parents. My dad's done past fundraising efforts. LLS dad's the assistant principal, so we were connected to it through them. But we were drawn to the Students of the Year program because it is student-led. So it gives us the chance to take on an own leadership role in our community. We're looking at something like leukemia. It's obviously hard to see past all the darkness and the tragedy. It's so overwhelming sometimes. But what our team strives to do and our goal of our campaign is to find the light in the darkness and bring this cure, which used to seem so far away, a little bit closer. So this is why we chose the name Team Telescope. I think it's up there because this is just like a telescope finding a star in the night sky. We're bringing that closer. So we think this really represents what makes Students of the Year so great, giving us this opportunity, and represents the purpose of our team individually.
Yeah, so you may have already seen some of our events so far in the community. We sold dress down passes for all the staff of the buildings, which was a big hit. We raffled off a spot in the staff parking lot at the high school, which is good with all the bad weather we've been having. We had a successful Chipotle fundraiser, a Valentine's Day tennis tournament, and yeah, tons of stuff going on so far. And we set an initial goal at the start of our campaign of raising $35,000. And we've had a lot of generous support, and we're so lucky to say that we've actually already passed our goal at the halfway point. We're at $38,000 or over $38,000 raised as of tonight. So that's really exciting, but we have a lot more actually that's still coming up. So we still have some food trucks coming to the high school. So if anyone can make their way up, we have, yes, one coming this Friday, and I think March 9th. A fundraiser, Drexel Nutrition, and I think some other local businesses were going to be involved. And we also have our biggest fundraiser at Top Golf. This is March 12th. It's a three hours of golf from 10 to 1. There's food, there's raffles. It's a great opportunity for our campaign. So if you're interested in donating to our campaign, because I feel like we're still capable of so much more, or attending any of our events because they are really good for our campaign and also just generally really fun activities. All links can be found on our Facebook and Instagram. So our Facebook is just Team Telescope. It's just a group. And our Instagram is at LLS Team Telescope. And all links to donate or to purchase tickets to events are there. So we would love if you could come to our events or just share it with your network and get the word out as much as possible. We're truly so grateful all the support we've already gotten in our campaign. And we're so lucky that we're really one step closer to a future without cancer. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this a 4-year, is something you're doing just for this year, or is it hopefully longer?
Yeah, so we can actually only be candidates once, like 3 of us, but it's a yearly campaign. So last year was Drexel's first year of doing it. There was a team of 3 juniors, seniors now last year who did it. But we'll definitely, I think we're gonna be team members next year. But yeah, just 1 year for candidates for us. Our current team members or anyone else in the district who be on the same kind of position. Hopefully we can create kind of a legacy in our district of upholding the Students of the Year program. And they raised $33,000 last year. So really right now our district has raised over, was that $70,000? So yeah.
Wonderful job, and you're wonderful.
Thank you.
So wonderful. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you so much.
I actually just had one last question. Do you have a stretch goal? So you've obviously been
Yes.
wildly successful to the state. Is there an additional goal that the community should know about as far as the new target?
So our big stretch goal is 50,000. I know if you talk to Mr. Jacob, this one is big for him too. At 50,000, we actually get to track where our money goes. So it kind of it gets put in our name in essence, so we get to see where all of our money actually goes and what research projects it's going to. And that's just nice for us to see. I mean, it's cool that years down the road that we could get an email or see something that shows that here's where your money's going. Here's this new treatment that you funded. So that'd be very exciting if we get to 50,000. Ambitious, but we hope, I mean, we're only halfway through. So that'd be exciting for us.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. And thank you for being such great role models for other students in our school. Now
Thanks.
Thank you. Just a couple more announcements. Wanted to say that we are receiving our therapy dog that we have purchased through grant money. We did not use general fund money for the therapy dog. She is coming tomorrow. We get to see her and meet her. Originally, the plan was to take her around to the buildings tomorrow to start introducing her to the kids, which is very vital when you're training a therapy dog, that they get used to being around a lot of kids. She has a vet appointment on Monday, and so we were advised not to take her around the kids until after the vet appointment. Her current name is Fairy. She is a chocolate lab with beautiful eyes. We are having a contest with the kids to name our new puppy. That information is going out in an email tomorrow to our community and to the parents with a link to where how their kids can nominate or come up with a name for the dog for us to consider. And lastly, I would just like to wish best of luck to our swim team. We have members going off to the state meet this weekend.
I have a couple questions about the therapy dog. Did we put money aside for the maintenance of the dog and the well keeping? Were we able to earmark that? Through the ESSER funds or the security grant, like who's funding the bill for the insurance and?
It's all the funding for the dog in the program came through the safety and security grants. And so
The whole lifetime of the dog is covered financially.
this initial cost that when you go through this program, like the first year of food, all the vets, all of the care needed for the dog is covered. And then through the safety and security grant, which we get every year, we will earmark a small amount to maintain that food. And if the dog needs to go to the vet from here on, but all the training is included in that as well.
Okay. And then who's the handler for the dog? Because I know like where I work, there's somebody who comes in and that the dog's brought in by a professional handler.
Mhm. So we had identified a staff member to volunteer to be the handler of the dog. So the dog will be living with one of our staff members and handled, and they will go through the training with the dog.
I respectfully say, my mom worked as a psychologist at Children's. And I've seen children run to the bathroom and hide because they're afraid of dogs. So although I think the therapy dog's a great idea, there's a way to do it. And I'm not sure we're all trained in that. So I know the psychologists are, but like walking the dog up and down in the classroom or through the halls. I've seen children who've been chased by dogs from other countries where I work. So, sometimes we thought it was going to be a great thing. And there are some things that we don't think about. And yes, the dog is cute, but the other thing is that, I hate to say it, but it reminds me of the ducks again, where it makes me nervous to be bringing dogs around children, especially since some of these children can't speak for themselves and not everybody's likes dogs. Maybe they have been traumatized by dogs. So I like that the staff's being trained, but they're not psychologists and they're not trained. So I hope we're very thoughtful on how we do this because, like I said, I've seen children run in fear. I've seen staff members who are traumatized by dogs, and it's just we're a public school district, not like Children's Hospital where they are trained on how to bring in and introduce animals. So hopefully we think about that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just to follow up, so was there ever, because to Ms. Mack's point, we are not a therapeutic facility. So given that, is there a plan for implementation for the dog? I'm assuming so.
Yes.
And was there a needs assessment as far as, how we're going to implement the plan based on the needs?
Mm-hmm. So the dog is being trained by the same company and the same people that train all of the police dogs in Drexel and in Broadview Heights. And while the dog will not be trained in any, attack or anything like that, they will be trained in the SES properties. And so there is a very specific plan. It's part of the training plan to say how you introduce the dog to the kids. And so that's why, many of these things through that training process, they'll be implemented gradually. We definitely plan on collecting information if kids are afraid of a dog. So if we know that this classroom has a child that's afraid of the dog doesn't go into the classroom. It's something that would stay out in the hallway if there is a child that needs or bring the child to the dog. So that's all through the training process and it's all done through commands. And so we will integrate the dog into the school on the training protocols that are set up by the company.
I guess the other thing is like, just because I've seen this in play, children who have asthma are very much affected by dogs. So allowing their parents to know, because what's happening in a lot of districts is the teacher signs out a time for the dog and they bring this dog in. Well, these little children aren't going to speak up for themselves, nor because they're embarrassed. So I think just to be proactive, if we're going to do this and we're going to do it correctly, I mean, being trained by a police officer handler is totally different than something that's therapeutic. So I want to be mindful and respectful of our parents and especially our children with medical needs. So before we start this, can we make sure that we're proactive, allowing our parents to say, listen, I don't want my child around the dog, not having the teacher decide for a whole classroom, this dog's coming in. And if the dog's coming in, bring it up to the front, because I've seen the dog walked, okay, up and down the aisles, and that's where I saw the child run in fear to the bathroom. So just please, like, it's a new thing. Hopefully it's not a flavor of the month. I know it hasn't been at a hospital, but it's something new that schools have not always been doing. So let's be mindful, before we even introduce the dog.
Okay, so I'm sorry, another question then. I mean, you're usually good about communicating anything. If this is going to be, I know you said primarily, like it's primarily elementary, we will be communicating with the community, families, right? That there will be a therapy dog on site.
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, item 8, treasurer's announcements. Greg?
Nothing major other than that tomorrow we are actually hosting the Northeast regional event for the fair school funding. So we'll be at the auditorium tomorrow. I think they're still expecting 100 and some people maybe at the high school auditorium. So we are excited to be a host for that event tomorrow.
Is that open to whoever wants to attend, or is
I
it?
don't think so, because we had to, like, I know I had to register for it myself actually. So I don't know if you got it. I don't think they can. I think it's just open for people who've registered through the professional organizations, because I think that superintendents will be there as well. Yeah.
We'll have school boards.
And OSBA.
Yes.
You know, if-
They're very excited to attend.
Oh, great.
Great. We'll
Great.
let you know.
you know if they're recording that meeting?
There is no Zoom set up, and we're not a part of that. They didn't ask us to do that. There is no Zoom link, so I don't know if they're gonna do anything like that or not. If they'll bring a crew or something, I have no idea.
Okay, very good.
We've had minimal interaction with what the logistics are of how the meeting's going to run, other than just being asked, if you host it? Yes, we can host it. And then they've been working internally to kind of figure out some of those things. So.
And that the focus or the purpose of this is because fair school funding is in play right now, but they don't know for how long. So is this to try to get feedback?
I think that's what it's for. It's, I don't want to say it's the road show, but I think it's like they're trying to get parts of the state where they can get some feedback and try to make a play for this to become permanent instead of just on a 2-year basis and get it permanently in law.
Okay, very good.
Just to add, like, they heavily marketed it at the OSBA training that was held in January for new board members.
Okay.
So it was,
Very good. Moving on, item 9, community communications, hearing of the public. Before I read this, is there anybody who wishes to address the board this evening? I see no one, so I will dispense with reading through that narrative, and we will move on to item 10, other board business. 10A, real estate transfer agreement. Resolved to approve real estate transfer agreement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Would one of you, well, so I'll give a little bit of a background just for those who are dialing in, and anybody can jump in and offer clarification or additional description. But our school district attempted to enter into an agreement with the city of Drexel a few months back. This is with regards to our Highland and Hilton properties, and this
Chippewa.
I'm sorry, Highland and Chippewa. Thank you. So for Highland and Chippewa, and that was an agreement that was to allow the city of Drexel to market those properties for development. And if there was a suitable offer on the table, that there were parameters in the agreement that allowed us to make it happen. So basically, giving some ownership to the city of Drexel to figure out what should happen with those properties. We thought that was going to be finalized a few months ago, but circumstances came up and it didn't happen, and we needed to make some minor adjustments to that agreement. The board sat in executive session at 6:30 before the regular meeting to discuss those changes with our lawyer. We were all comfortable with it, and so we are now going to vote to approve of the revised agreement, which again is with the city of Drexel for the marketing of those properties. Does anybody else have any other thoughts, comments, or questions? No. Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Item 10C, OSB legislative platform agenda.
So every year, the Ohio School Boards Association adopts a legislative platform which addresses a wide variety of issues facing public education in Ohio. And school boards throughout the state are invited to provide any input on the platform. The platform's posted on OSBA's website. So I recently reviewed the platform. I have no objection to it. I don't know if any other board members have done so. Any suggested modifications aren't due until May 31st. Anyway, since OSBA is looking for any input, I thought we should all take the opportunity to review it to see if we wanted to provide any.
I have reviewed it. And I do, I do have concerns specifically in one area. And that is under alternative education, which is under a section, let's see, students and learning, alternative schools. And I'm only one member of our board, but I'd like us to consider that it is under the students and learning portion of their legislative platform, and it doesn't go nearly far enough, in my opinion, falls far short of putting in place student protections. And I think that, OSBA needs to support legislation that is going to help ensure that students with diverse needs are educated within their least restrictive environment and with peers, using supplementary aids and supports to the greatest extent possible. I think they need to support the use of alternative schools only if it's in accordance with state and federal laws and it protects student rights to receive a full curriculum that allows them to make progress and advance to the next grade level. And they need to support legislation that that makes sure to ensure that alternative schools do not constitute an informal removal from school, which is harmful to students. So it doesn't go far enough, in my opinion, with student protections, and it is under their student learning section. That's my input.
Well, we have from now until May 31st to adopt a resolution proposing different language to that. So do you want to propose that and we'll address it at our March meeting?
I will. Absolutely.
Okay.
Will you write that? Will you send that in writing
I-
to all of us?
I
so we all
absolutely
can
will.
See.
Mhm.
Well, and just to clarify too, give us what is in their platform currently. and
Absolutely.
What you're recommended.
Can I ask, did everybody receive the legislative platform?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will.
I have it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, my only assessment was a continued investigation around the use of technology and the access of that and how we're delivering that. So I don't have my remarks at this time, but I'll have those for the next meeting.
Okay.
Any other comments, thoughts? Okay. As Ellen mentioned, we have a little bit of runway left. So anybody who has any thoughts on it and ideas, maybe write them out and send them amongst us so we can review them and tee it up for further discussion. All right, moving on to item D, plaque for new elementary building discussion. Joelle, you want to tee this up for us?
Yeah, so we're getting to the point very excitedly getting to the point of the new building where we need to do a dedication plaque and have it then installed in the wall of the new elementary school. And so we need to create that plaque. And so we need to decide what we want that to say on the plaque and who we want to recognize on the plaque. So in your notes and next to you by your computer, you have an example of what the city of Drexel is considering for their plaque option. They are going to do one closer. So we're not going to do a joint one. They're going to do one that's closer to the entryway of the field house, and then ours would be closer to the entryway of the new elementary school. And so we just need to have a discussion on who you wanted to recognize on that plaque. You can see that they have their current people that are in office, and then also thank some former people that were part of that project at the time, but may or may not be currently on city council or in the city government. So the question is would you like to follow the same suit or the same format in recognizing people who are currently on the board, but then also respecting the people that were maybe on the board prior to you to have on the plaque as this project developed?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, I'd like to see our former treasurer on there as well.
Yeah.
Jeff Hall.
And
I don't, yeah, and then they have other people.
Mike
as well.
Ziegler and Fred Peterson.
Yeah, but I'd like to see Jeff on there.
Does it make any sense? I know that there was, and I can't recall the formal name of the committee. I think you might remember, but the committee that put together the whole idea of this new school, to name some of the people that were instrumental in that committee.
What are you
Or
talking?
the committee?
Like which ones?
Like the facilities, like, was it
Bond?
We don't have to, but
it was initially a facilities assessment committee, and then that rolled into the bond campaign. And that worked.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then that rolled into a lot of people being involved with the discussion
Now we're gonna
about
leave
two
somebody
buildings.
Now we're in trouble.
well, just maybe the name of the committee. I don't know. They were really, that committee was so instrumental in this whole process, but it's nothing, it's just an idea. I just feel like they really got the ball rolling for this project.
Would it be possible to see, and we're talking about the school district's rendering of this, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to create a rendering for you. I just needed to know what to put on the rendering. So, yeah, so I mean, I can put it and then you can respond to that too. But if you're okay with former board members, former treasurers, we can look up the name of that group and put it on. I think that's a good idea to maybe mention the name of the committee as opposed to individual people's, to Kathleen's point, so we don't inadvertently miss somebody. So I will put something together and then you can respond to it and we'll get it rendered.
Yeah, you know, our bond committee, I mean, I'd like to see Petra like
Mhm.
recognized as far as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that was instrumental. So the bond committee and with her recognized as well.
I think we just have to be careful with where we draw the line. This is almost like a wedding where you're trying to decide who do you invite. And once you go past a certain level, you're like, well, now I've got all these cousins or,
Oh, I get it. And I
so-
was the one who brought that point up. I just would like to see a mock-up with the bond committee because, I mean, that to me is essential and everybody's on the bond committees right there except for Petra. So
Well, right. I would just want to be mindful that we don't include somebody and then somebody else who did almost as much as saying, well, wait a minute, what about me kind of thing? I mean, I just think there's got to be a cutoff somewhere. So maybe you could put together a list of people that, were involved, certainly, former board members, right? That, were the ones who voted to put the bond issue on, those certainly make sense. Additional people, think, try to vet that out, like who were they and what, is there a rationale to say this person should be on the plaque, but this person shouldn't be on the plaque? I mean, it is a sensitive thing, and so I think we just need to be mindful of that and figure out where we draw the line. Do we want to put an actual, like Ellen was mentioning about the committee, I don't even remember what that committee's name was. So like,
Yeah.
is that, are people going to remember because we had multiple committees. We've been doing facilities. We're doing facility stuff for years with facility assessments and various groups. So I'm not even sure which one of those committees.
I meant the bond committee.
Oh,
I'm
the
sorry.
bond committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, to Kathleen's point, it was the Facilities Assessment Committee that was in 2017.
Well, we did multiple facilities
And
assessments just so
But
you're.
there was like a last ditch effort, and then that rolled into the bond campaign, for which Petra was a co-chair of the bond campaign. And then, yeah, the board members and the treasurers that made that initiative possible.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't very articulate, but that's what I meant, was the people who were instrumental in getting that bond campaign really out there. And maybe the people who voted for it.
And the voters.
Can you check too with, I'm assuming TDA does this all the time. Maybe they're not involved with the plaques, but like what do other, there's a lot of new buildings going up. Is there a standard kind of thing? Is there a practice that a lot of districts are following when North Royalton just put new buildings up, Strongsville put new buildings up? Like, what do they do? It might be helpful to see who are they putting on, recognizing on their plaque.
Well, maybe I'll take a field trip Friday and drive around and take pictures of them so we can see what they're putting on. Yeah, I don't know if there's a standard. I mean, when we did our facility in Mayfield, it was just that, the past board members who were part of that decision, and then current administration, and and just a thank you to the community for allowing this to happen, kind of thing. But I absolutely can do that. I'm kidding about doing the field trip, but I can have Cameron and I can have Mike send me a picture of their plaques just so that we have a point of reference.
I do like the piece about adding the and you point, but just including the community in that. I think that's really, really valuable.
We will mock something up.
All right, moving on to item 10E, live stream board committee meetings discussion. As we have changed our practice to be more in compliance with protocol, all of our board committee meetings need to be noticed with an agenda, and we are doing that. And we just had our audit committee meeting last week. And so that was, I think, our first board committee meeting that we've had since the new year. And the question became, would the board like to live stream these board committee meetings, since they're almost like a quasi board meeting? There's 2 board members. Would we like to live stream them and then have the recordings available for view? This past audit committee meeting, we did not live stream it because we're last second just realized, do we want to do this? So we decided not to on that one, and then bring it back to the board for further discussion. Personally, I think it makes sense to live stream them and record them. It is the public's business. It does follow along a mode of transparency where even in board committee meetings, we're publicly noticing them. We're putting an agenda out. We're putting minutes out. Why not treat it just like a board meeting and live stream it and put those recordings out there to allow the public to dial into those committee meetings if they so choose. Other thoughts?
I'm very supportive of that.
Yeah, Mark, can you clarify, is this for both the board member committee reports and the district committee reports, or is it just one or the other?
Yeah, not district. So board
Okay,
committee
just board
reports,
committee.
is what we recently, so we have 3
Okay.
right now. The financial liaison, audit, permanent improvement, and board policy are the 3
Okay.
board level committees, so that this would apply to those.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure I understood what this all covered. Yeah, I think this makes total sense to continue on that.
And
I guess my question is, do we have a capacity to do that? Meaning, do we have, I don't want this to become an other duties as assigned for Craig or anyone, but do we have a capacity to?
We usually have them here anyways, so we can use the same platform that we currently use.
Okay,
In this fashion, it's the same. The only caveat I will mention, though, is that we were okay in the financial audit piece of this. We'll just have to be careful that the audit is not allowed to be discussed in public until it's actually been posted on the Auditor of State's website, which it was actually posted, I think, Friday before our meeting. So we were okay there. So we'd have to make a decision either to only make sure we schedule that post audit after it's been approved by the Auditor of State's office and it's been published on the website. Or we would have to choose to not live stream that particular meeting.
Could another option be that we record the meeting, not live stream it, but record it and then post it after the audit's been
Posted.
posted?
I can check with them. I probably would be fine. I just have to also ask whether it's okay if the public were there to see that though, but it's fine. I mean, I think we can always, we get our audit done early enough usually. And so once it gets submitted, it usually only takes a couple of weeks for them to post it. We could just make sure we have creative scheduling, but I just wanted to make sure that that's one of the, it is a little bit different because of how it's treated. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't want to, if there are some elements of that particular committee with the audit that has to do with timing or whatnot, we need to stay in compliance. It sounds like we can work around that though by just postponing that meeting until it's
afterwards.
posted.
So sometimes like in policy, which I don't think I've ever had pleasure being on policy with you, but like, for example, policy, Pat Corbett will come in and speak about certain districts and telling us the nature of the policy. Is Pat comfortable doing that? I don't know. I mean, that there's some good conversations, at least in the past, that we had that, I don't know,
Well-
we're required to do what? We're required to have minutes and we're required to
Public
have an
notice,
agenda.
Minutes, agenda
Well,
and minutes. Those would be
But we are not required to live stream. So, and we're not required to record. So could we do this by a case basis, just so we can start getting our feet wet, run through it, tell the people so they're not sneak attacked when they come here, and that, we are very sensitive to how to speak to the public. I'm not sure everybody has that same sensitivity. So just a thought.
I mean, we can do whatever we want.
Right.
We're deciding that now as a board. We could decide to live stream everything, live stream nothing, or do
Right.
something in the middle. I guess my only comment back to that is with these board committee meetings, they are open to the public.
Absolutely.
So even though I understand live streaming and recording them, garners a bigger audience, right? So you do have to, have to be careful, but, you could have people from the public show up at the meeting and those same concerns about what gets said when the room is empty versus what gets said when,
It's not a transparency thing as much as a sensitivity thing that I recognize that, one, not everybody is ready for speaking in the public and they could cause issues for us, not only themselves, but the second thing is like, if we're not required to do it, it's not to not be transparent. I'm just wondering if we should go slowly, since we have an agenda, have the minutes and see each time we have these meetings, if that's something we want to do rather than just deciding we're going to do it across the board. Just the thought.
well, the only pushback I would give is when you say go slowly, what would be the criteria that says now we're ready to live stream?
I would say no. I would say
Okay.
no live stream. I would say the agenda and the notes, but some of the things that I can think of, if it's misconstrued or pushed out, I mean, we have instances like this, where things get pushed out without enough information.
Well, and
Now they're banning, now they're banning drones. I think the drone policy and some of that, no, we're not banning drones, but
I understand.
yeah.
My only take is that, we're not obligated to live stream our board meetings. And yet we started doing that way before COVID happened because it meant to be transparent. And all of a sudden you have to pay closer attention to what you're saying and how you're behaving, because it's not an empty room. It's being recorded. And we've been doing that for years. And, board committees they're just an extension of the board. The other benefit I see from doing that is board committee meetings usually only have 2 board members, which means 3 board members are not there. They don't really know what the discussion was. If there ever was an interest to say, hey, I really wanted to know what happened in the policy meeting, I could dial in and then, board members could also plug in and see what happened. But, well,
Okay.
Tish, do you have thoughts on it?
I guess my only thoughts on it are is it's considered a public meeting. no matter what.
Correct.
So I mean, we have to operate transparently pretty much at all times unless we're in an executive session. So
I don't see a problem with that. Yeah.
I feel like what happens, then it's
Okay.
there.
I think we need to forewarn people that we're bringing from the outside that that's what we're doing. We need to show them an agenda and, because this isn't a common practice across every district that some of these people are coming to. So we need to warn them about that. Not warn, but forewarn.
And I do have one question, partly because I'm on the Permanent Improvement Committee, which Mr. Code is extremely instrumental. And I mean, do you foresee any problems with live streaming?
No.
Okay, all right. I mean, okay. I'm here thinking through all our meetings and I can't think of anything, but wanted to get your input because you really run those.
I mean, city council does it, and they run it on Facebook Live, and it'll give you an alert on their zoning and all of that. So I see them do that. I don't know if they do every single meeting, but they do planning and zoning. So, I mean, I see it work. I just don't know about their smaller committees.
I guess my only question is, Craig, can we afford it?
What?
Can we afford it?
Oh, well, the live streaming part is free, so like that's not a change. That's a different discussion.
I was kind of joking, just because it is an increase to.
Yes.
Do either of you know of any concerns of like other districts that thought about doing this or anything we're missing on this? I mean, we can change, right, if we decide nothing's written in stone, but
I would, the only caution I give is the agendas might change because we're live streaming, meaning that, especially I'm thinking like Permanent Improvement Committee, if we're talking to you about some safety feature that we're doing, those are not subject to public record. And so while that may have been a conversation we had, not live streaming, it's not a conversation we're going to have live streaming. So it might, adding that live stream component in it may just change. And it's not that we're not being transparent. There are just some things that are not subject to public record and they are not to be shared. So I would just think about that before you make a final decision.
And in those instances, we could always build the agenda around topics that might be not subject to public records. And so you could truncate the report. So you
then
could
you're having, if we need to talk to you about that, then does it?
Well, but you couldn't have it in that same form
You
anyways.
couldn't have it. You'd have to have like another meeting then to address some of those issues too. So
That was my question. I was like, am I missing something? Because we do have to public notice the meeting no matter what, and the public can attend.
they can't attend.
But I guess the thing is that we're at the forefront of this, I think, too, because I'll be honest, I don't think most districts do this, period. And I think that we've obviously become hyper aware given the events. So I think it's great that we're doing that. But in reality, I would probably say 90% of school districts are not publicly noticing some of these committee meetings and doing the stuff that they're supposed to be doing. So we're again at the forefront of that, and setting that example, I think is good. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I think it was good that we didn't do the first one just because it is kind of getting our feet wet. And I mean, I think some of the stuff that Kathleen has brought up has been, it's valuable in terms of maybe more of a slow transition, I guess. But I mean, whatever the board decides is fine with me. I mean, it's the board's committee meeting, so.
Well, so then to that point, is there any pending reason why we would need to make this decision today, and we can crawl before we walk, before we run with notices and agendas?
Not
before we make this
necessarily, but there's
decision?
those meetings that are coming up because policy is March 16th before our next board meeting, and then permanent improvements in April. So.
But if there's consensus at this point that maybe we need to Ms. Mack's point, crawl before we walk and run in terms of getting it right with noticing and the agenda preparation.
You know what I'd like to do is like go to policy and think, I'm recording this, and how does this look? The one thing is if we're live streaming, that's one thing, but if we're recording it for future, that's another thing, because now I have the ability to cut out something that I might have paused. I might have wanted to pause, whether it be our mayor or anybody saying something that maybe we might not, it was sensitive. So that's the only thing, is like the live stream is a little bit scary to me just to jump into, rather than either we're going to record. So we have this ability to be more methodical and thinking what we're doing. Plus, I would like the ability to see, okay, here's them, here's what it would look like. Just one run through rather than just going at it.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. Maybe have the first couple meetings that we're noticing to the public and then wait to live stream till later in the year.
So if we hit pause on this, maybe can you guys do a little bit of research to find out, is anybody doing this? I mean, there's no problem in leading either, because we were a leading district in first audio recording our meetings and publishing them as well as video. We did that way before COVID. So, and that's a good thing, to be transparent, but maybe let's do a little research on this and see, if anybody else is doing this and if there's any other concerns we're missing. And then maybe we circle back to this in another board meeting and talk about it again.
I just wanted to add, I'm sorry, you're kind of the final say, but this was a big topic of discussion at that OSBA weekend training. They were talking about this. They were talking about the noticing of committee meetings, making sure that they are public. They were talking about virtual, providing those virtual or a live streaming option. So there was a significant amount of time dedicated to that. So we may be at the forefront, but there is messaging coming out from the state. I mean, we are a member of OSBA, right? I mean, that there is guidance that they're going to probably be communicating and continuing to communicate around this issue.
Well, and
Like
the
now.
reality too is with COVID, this has been a game changer. And so although we were broadcasting our meetings and live streaming and posting recordings for years, the public has come to expect it. It's like they come to expect, at the local level, to be able to dial into a lot of the meetings and find recordings. And so that's another element, is OSBA and finding out, what is their recommendation, what's their guidance on this. And so maybe we need a little more data gathering on who's doing it and what the trend line is, and again, push back on why not do this. It is taking us out of a comfort zone. It does mean that people coming into a board committee meeting have to recognize and be made aware that this is going to be live streamed if we go down that route, and just see, if we've checked all the boxes and if it makes sense for us to move forward with it. Can we add it as is it okay to add it to as another discussion topic for next board meeting, and then we can find out what we heard back? Is everybody comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay. All right, the other part of this discussion was board docs. And Craig, I don't know if you want to make comments about, so we have a subscription to board docs, and there is an upgraded version or a premium version of board docs, which, has additional costs to it that would let you, if we decided to, well, not even if we decided, but in terms of managing the agendas and the meeting minutes, and if we do live streaming and posting the videos, we could either have them feathered in amongst all of our regular board meetings. So basically use our exact same platform, don't do anything, don't upgrade board docs. And these would just show up as special committee meetings or however we tag them. Or we could upgrade board docs into a more premium version, which would let us recategorize all these committee meetings into a separate place. So they wouldn't be interspersed in with our board meetings. They would be in a separate category. Is that?
Yeah, so everything stays the same. I do believe that all the stuff is still searchable, but where I'm looking at right now, there would be a drop-down menu here, and it just says governing board. And so under here, for instance, we would have permanent improvement committee, financial audit committee, and then the policy committee. So you'd have 3 different subcategories of committees, and everything would look, to my knowledge, it would look the same as what this is, except it would be for just each individual committee. And so that's what the upgrade basically would get us. and that's why I think it's, for the number of committee meetings we have, I don't necessarily know if it makes financial sense, but yes, we pay $2,700 per year to use board docs. And if we want the feature to separate them out, it would be an additional $3,100, which makes no sense to me.
Well,
We could put as.
They would just show up as, we wouldn't feature them, but you would just have those meetings interspersed and it's
So-
all together anyways.
So if we just got really good at naming our documents,
Correct.
we could search it really effectively.
the upgraded feature has some additional features too that are
Okay.
beneficial. Like there's a whole approval process of agenda items. So like, if we could set it up where, if Sherry or somebody in your department puts on an agenda item, it has to go through an approval process before it actually gets there. And so if it's wrong or it's not dated correctly, we can send it back and reject it and make changes. And so, that's a nice feature, especially for us, that we look at something and then something else gets added. And, so there are it's not just for being able to have your other meetings on there. There are some additional upgrades that come with the.
There are other features. The only thing I don't know, and to her point, is that this is considered the, I don't remember which one it is, but this is the plus version, but there's a pro as well. And you don't have to go to plus to get to pro, but plus does other things that pro doesn't do, and pro does things that plus doesn't do. And so it's very confusing. And I don't know which one you're talking about, if it actually is pro or plus.
I think when we presented this
But if it's
before,
the other one, it is actually even more than this. If you want the plus and the pro, it would be probably triple the cost, just to put that in perspective. But yes, there are other features. I called and asked the question based on what our current need was. So that is what we'd be paying for that need. But yes, there are other features that would come with that plus membership.
Before you were on with us, we had them present to us, and they like captured our screen, remember this?
Yes.
Captured our screen, they showed us all the differentiation. I do remember there being some features. I didn't make that comment, I guess. Okay. But could we have what the difference is? Like I'm sure there were other things. I remember things being searchable that we could not have. So let's find out what that is. Or make my comments. I mean, I remember it being significantly more.
Yeah, I think the total for all three, it's like $10,000 a year. I think for all three, the pro and the plus, if you want everything.
You've got access to other boards' policies that I don't know if we have that.
We have that.
Okay.
I think that when you go to policies, I think you can search globally across everybody who uses board docs and their policies if you wanted to. But
Does it tag it based on the agenda? Is there any, are you still doing that where you're going in with the video and tagging it to the agenda?
I haven't been doing that for I don't know, the last 6 months. So what we're talking about is all of these recordings are live streamed and they're posted on YouTube. And then the YouTube video can be integrated in with the board agenda. And if you painstakingly go through and timestamp each agenda item, you can put the timestamp in there so that when you're on this agenda item and you click the video button, it jumps you to the beginning of this conversation, which is really cool, but it's a manual effort to watch the video and say, oh, here's when item 10E started. So I've got to tag the video as starting at 38 minutes and 13 seconds. And so I stopped doing that. The other thing is that you can search our videos and find where we're at way quicker now because we're presenting the agenda on the screen. So if you were to pull the video up, you can kind of scroll through and see, oh, I'm on agenda 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that feature is still there. There's no quick, easy way to automate that timestamping. And the fact that we're presenting, because we're using Zoom now and we're presenting our agenda interspersed with our video, makes that feature less important. But that was part of the standard board docs. So like everything that we're using board docs for now, it's all good. You can go out and search. When you do a search across all of our meetings, you're searching everything. That searches attachments, it searches anything in the content area. So it's very useful. And that searchability, if we start putting these committee meetings in there too, will be helpful too, because it'll find hits in those committee meetings, which is not just for board members, it's for the whole public. So it's a very useful platform.
Okay, so we're gonna move this
Okay.
to March, is that correct?
We're gonna move the discussion about live streaming board committee meetings to March, and then the board docs upgrade. If you want to do a little more digging on what do we get if we go to an upgraded version, and do we think the view is worth the climb? You know, and let us know, because ultimately, you know, you can pay for a lot of features, and then, you know, then it's like
Right.
Word, where it can do a million things and you use like 2% of it.
I was board docs at my last district. It's just me. There was no board docs.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to file stuff. I get it, but yeah, it's expensive.
Which I'm really happy with our current setup. So I don't see any need to, you know, do the upgrade. I mean, maybe you guys do, but so far I think it's, you know,
Yeah.
I'm fine with the current program that we're using.
Yeah, I think if we
Right.
had just a little more information around what the features are that are gonna come with this, and we can talk about how it'll integrate with your day and the functionality of your day as well as the benefit to the public for their searchability. I think that would be great. Outside of that, I think we can get really good at naming our documents.
Yeah. For double cost.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts on this topic before we move on? All right, very good. Let's go to item 11, superintendent's other business. I'll turn it over to Joelle.
So item A is OHSAA membership. This is our annual renewal to be part of OHSAA. Second is our robotics team that made the championships. They're going to Dallas, Texas. And so this is just an approval of that trip, acknowledging that we're allowing them to go. Bus purchasing resolution. This is the same resolution that we approve every year to continue to not only build and replace our bus fleet. This one particular is for some special education buses that we are in need of. And that's it.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I should have probably read through these because this is an action item. Let me just read through real quick to be official. Well, we're going to discuss after you motion it, and then we can open it up to discussion. So if you just, yes, thank you. Item A, resolve to approve voluntary membership in OHSAA. Item B, resolve to approve high school 2022 robotics world championship trip. Item C, resolve to approve bus purchasing resolution as attached. And item D, motion to approve superintendent's consent items A to C. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, now we can have some discussion.
I have a question about the robotics, and this is a weeds question, it's not like a high level question, but, you know, to me, I was reading it, we tape our doors when we take our students out, within the high school robotics, that we put tape on the doors, so.
Every trip, Washington DC.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay. I think we should trust our students, but okay. Okay, just a comment.
And I just had a question about the bus purchasing resolution. Because it's February 23rd, 2022, and it's talking about bids from April of 2021.
Well,
You
I
can go ahead.
can't, but Chris can.
I did talk to him about this earlier, so I'll let him have the spotlight here. Enjoy.
That is a very good question. We are actually buying our buses now on last year's bid to hold the price. And we are being told by Ohio Schools Council that these buses are at least 12 months out. So the ones that you guys approved tonight, we're using last year's bid to hold the price because we've already been told that price is going up. And the buses that you approved tonight are 12 months. So we're not going to see these buses until 23.
Wow, okay,
They're 12 months out today.
okay. Thanks, Mr. Code.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mrs. Wigman,
Yes,
Mr. Dosen.
Yes.
good luck to the robotics team.
Yeah.
Item 12, superintendent's consent agenda. Item A, resolve to approve certified personnel recommendations. Item B, resolve to approve classified personnel recommendations. Item C, resolved to approve supplemental personnel recommendations. And item D, can I have a motion to approve superintendent's consent items A through C?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on any
discussion?
recommendations?
Fairly quiet on the recommendations. This is pretty typical this time of year.
Very typical.
No questions. Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Item F, resolve to approve the supplemental positions as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Just a comment, this is broken out so that one of our board members has relatives in these recommendations, and it allows that board member to abstain if they so choose. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
I abstain.
Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item 13, treasurer's consent agreement. Item A, resolve to approve financial reports of January as attached. Item B, resolve to approve the budget modifications as attached. Item C, resolve to approve the 3-year copier lease agreement and copier service and support contracts as attached. Item D, resolve to approve the annual credit card compliance reports as attached. Item E, resolve to approve the 2022-2023 all-day kindergarten fee at $2,800. Item F, resolve to approve the donations as listed below. Item G, resolve to approve the minutes from the January 19th, 2022 regular board meeting as attached. Item H, can I have a motion to approve treasurer's consent items A through G?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Good job on the fly with the donations there.
Yeah, that's all right. Do you want to walk us through your
Sure.
agenda items?
Yeah, so we'll go over the, where's it at, bottom one, financial report pretty quickly, hopefully. Things are looking good. As I told you last month, we were going to be working towards getting this, all aligned as the state funding has come in. This is aligning very much so to our 5-year forecast right now. As you can see, it's pretty flat right here in terms of the favorable compared to the forecast in both expenditures and revenues and overall. And then if you recall, this would increase the cash balance at this point in time in February of $161,000. Our current forecast is 106 or 109,000. So we're within the realm of where we're going to see at this point. And this will continue to update like it always does each month as we can continue to get actual numbers. When we look at our revenue collections compared to the prior year, you can see that large blue line, which is what I kind of talked about last month, which is that large influx of state money that came in that was kind of owed to us by switching to the new formula. And then the state took a lot of time to get some of that information out to the school districts. So I went through and kind of aligned everything to what the state reports are now indicating. So this should start to level out now that we're into January right now. So, well, into February, I guess, but for the January report. Overall, we're $1 million higher than the previous year. And again, that is due to the factors that you see there. That's that larger increase in state aid primarily. And then also the local taxes and reimbursements that continues to grow. So overall, we look at our current year to date as it compares to the forecast. Again, this will update. We're going to get our settlement in March. We just received our February tax collection, so we'll see how this kind of evens out. We're hoping that this will be, so the triennial update for Cuyahoga County was in 2021. So those new valuations are starting to hit the tax collections in 2022. They did move the due date from the 27th of January to, I think, February 10th. So they're still, I mean, they're hopefully done collecting the bulk of them. But we'll start to see that those two last settlement payments, the one posted in February, the last settlement payment will post in March, to see where we kind of end up for this first half of the year in revenues. But we expect it to be consistent with the forecast. If anything, hopefully maybe a little bit more, right? On the expenditure side, we are looking at January expenditures compared to the prior year, and we are below what we spent last January. Last January, though, was a 3-pay month, and this January was not. So that is the primary reason why that is a change there. Overall, our expenditures are $241,000 higher from the previous year. This, as it compares to the forecast, again, we're tracking pretty well with what the forecast is projecting at this point, and we will see how we finish that out. Again, this was kind of more updated now that we kind of factored in those contract ideas or how the contract settled into the forecast, but it had not all been kind of finalized until this past month. So we will continue to track this, but overall we're looking good. All right. The budget modification.
We are tracking very close to what.
Right now, we're pretty much dead on.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
Good.
And I have so practically speaking, the Fair School Funding Plan has benefited our district's finances positively.
Correct. We're seeing most of that money, as I mentioned before, in transportation, actually. So that's where a lot of that stuff, the way that they're funding transportation has changed. And that's where the bulk of our money is actually located in terms of how it's affecting the district positively. We are considered we're still kind of on the guarantee because of our status and our wealth of the district. So it's helping a lot more districts necessarily than it's helping us, but it's still going in the right direction because they're only still funding a percentage of it. It has to be phased in, and that number would continue to grow if that fair school funding would get phased in, but our guarantee would continue to grow. So yes, it is still affecting us positively. Budget modifications, this is just an amendment to the appropriations as we get closer to the end of the year. And then we may have one more update between now and June, and then we'll do the final appropriations in June to kind of get everything set together. I included some notes here about the 3-year copier contract that we're going to embark on with a new company, Blue Technologies, and new devices that will be installed in July this summer. So this was aligned nicely to the new building opening. So we'll see all new devices throughout the buildings as we start the school year next year. We got a great price to the RFP process. When I looked at the copier contract when I got here, I thought it was going to be a bad thing, but Chris did a good job with the rates that he had. And I think he will even agree that the rates we got now are absolutely ridiculously good. We were getting rates that were similar to Akron Public, actually, which we don't have the volume.
Right.
And so we were trying to knock our heads together. Why did these companies want Drexel's contract so bad? But our Drexel Broadview Heights is a desirable district, I guess, in our location. So we got really, really, really good bids for this contract. This is a credit card compliance report. You guys saw this last year. This is new from Mrs. Kwiatkowski. This is required to show you that the district does have a credit card program and what the limits are for each one of these, the cards. It also requires us to show you whether or not, if we received a rebate, how much was the rebate and where did the money go? We did not receive a rebate last year because our expenditures were under $250,000 on the card program. That was largely in part because we normally pay workman's comp on the credit card, which is a nice feature to get the rebate back. But last year they kept giving us all those refunds due to COVID. And so they never actually sent us a bill. They actually gave us money instead. And that's partly why we did not receive a rebate last year. And then Michelle Hoover is my accounts payable. She is considered the compliance officer for the district for that program.
Craig, are we going to have to change this mid-year because we won't have separate accounts for Hilton, Chippewa, and Highland?
For what?
The credit
Are we
card.
going to have to change this mid-year?
No, we'll make those changes over the summer for the credit card program.
Okay.
This is just when we're actually putting the compliance report together. So it'll be reflective of the prior year. But we will condense that card down. They'll only have, right now that each one of those has one card, and the new building will probably just have 2 just in case. Honestly, the small buildings, the elementaries don't even really use their card. It's just there in case they have an emergency that would come up. The 2023 kindergarten fee, Ms. Magyar and I discussed this. we did some talking back and forth with the program in general. This is an overall increase of $200 to the current price that we have. We did increase the pay in full discount to $100. And we're hoping that that will entice people to maybe pay earlier or pay in full because it's a little bit bigger of a discount to do so. Program still does run in the negative overall for that all-day program. So this was kind of more of like a market adjustment. We're still well below other peer groups that we were looking at. So that is the recommended item there. Donations, we just had one this month from Ken Ganley, and then the minutes.
Yeah, and just additionally on the all-day kindergarten fee, I believe we've been flat with that for 6 years. So as most people realize, inflation has just skyrocketed this past year, and as well as over the last 6 years, there's obviously been inflation. So we've been holding that fee steady. So it's a modest increase from $2,600 to $2,800, $200. And that we do run that program in the negative, meaning the district subsidizes that. That's not covering the full cost. So just hopefully our families understand. Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Item 14, closing items. Item A, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for March 23rd at 7 p.m. And item B, resolve to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion?
Mark, may I make one announcement?
Sure.
Before we adjourn? I neglected to do it in my announcements, but I just wanted to recognize our gymnastics team. There was a really nice article done by ESPN magazine that was published over the weekend. They did a great spotlight on our program and the history of our program. And we have the most consecutive state champions in the country, not just in Ohio. And so they did a comparison to some other sports. And so it's a really nice article. If you have a minute to take a look at it, ESPN.com, and just want to congratulate our whole gymnastics program. What a legacy to have, and just really good to be recognized by ESPN.
Is that article available to the public, or do you have to have a subscription?
No, I think it's available to the public, and I think Jim is going to include the link tomorrow in the email that
Perfect.
we're sending.
I was
So
going to ask if we could push out the link to that article. That's fantastic. Excellent. Adjournment. Did we have a motion?
Not yet.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Mack.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wigman.
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. Stay safe and warm, everyone.
Thank you.